The first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima.
Move the humanity!
The fires of frustration and discord are burning in every
Let us
city.
not forget for a moment the toils and efforts that lie ahead.
They say that those who forget their history are condemned to repeat it. This is the History Lessons Podcast with certified financial planning practitioner Patrick Huey, author of History Lessons for the Modern Investor, and your guide to financial wisdom in the past, present, and future. You ready? Good. Let's get historical.
So picture this. You're at an airport somewhere in the Northeast on Monday morning. Outside, a winter storm is dumping snow on the runway, and inside the TSA, well, they've pared back their staff because of government funding drama. Flights are delayed, security lines are wrapped around the food court, and everyone is refreshing their phones, convinced that the whole system is basically falling apart. Well, from where you're standing, it feels true. But you have to zoom out just a little bit. Because even on a day like that, somewhere around the country, planes are still taking off and landing. Crews are still rotating through their routes. Air traffic control is still moving thousands of flights you'll never see from your little piece of the world. Yeah, the bottlenecks are real, and they're annoying, but they're not the whole story. Well, your financial life works the same way. The storm might be a scary headline. The TSA line might be a policy fight in Washington. When does that ever happen? Or a rough week in the markets. It's loud, it's visible, and it makes you want to do something dramatic, like cancel your trip, rebook everything, or swear off flying forever. But underneath, as usual, there's a quieter reality. Your goals, your time horizon, your diversified portfolio, your savings habits, that deeper machinery is what actually gets you from where you are now to where you want to go. So the next time the line feels endless and the departure board looks ugly, remember, you don't have to redesign your entire itinerary while waiting at the gate. Make sure your situation and your destination are still the right ones for you. Make sure your route still fits how you want to travel. And then let the system work through the congestion, instead of letting one bad travel day dictate the rest of your financial journey. After the break, I'm back with this week's history lesson for the modern investor.
This episode is sponsored by Victory Independent Planning. At VIP, our mission is simple. Live well, do good. We build strong relationships with good people and help them turn money into what really matters. Retiring without worry, traveling more, supporting family, or funding the causes and projects they care about most. Based in Naples, Florida, and Portland, Oregon, we serve clients nationwide with comprehensive fiduciary advice, retirement income planning, custom investment portfolios, tax strategy, healthcare and Medicare decisions, and estate and legacy planning, all carefully organized around your unique goals. If you're ready for a plan that puts your best interests first, visit victoryindependentplanning.com and schedule your VIP consultation.
On March 1st, 1872, Yellowstone becomes the first national park, choosing stewardship over a quick payout. In the years after the Civil War, the American West was being carved up at a furious pace. Railroads pushed their tracks towards the Pacific. Prospectors fanned out in search of gold, silver, and copper, and anything else that might glint in the right light. Land speculators dreamed of resorts and town sites. Timber companies saw forests as bored, waiting to be harvested. In that context, the region we now call Yellowstone looked like a tempting buffet. Here was a landscape of geysers, canyons, waterfalls, and wildlife unlike anything most Americans, certainly those along the Atlantic seaboard, had ever seen. Remote, raw, and to many eyes, ready to be put to use. Exploration parties returned east with sketches and early photographs that seemed almost impossible. Boiling mud pots, rivers carving deep gorges, entire valleys wreathed in steam. Some members of Congress and business leaders saw an opportunity for private development, things like hotels at every vista, rail lines leading through the geyser basins, mining claims staked wherever the ground looked promising. Others, influenced by painters, writers, and a growing conservation ethic, began to argue for something radical at the time, that this place was too rare to be sliced into parcels and sold to the highest bidder. Instead, they proposed setting it aside, not for one company or one generation, but for the benefit and enjoyment of the people, for as long as the Republic endured. Thus, on March 1st, 1872, President Ulysses S. Grant signed the Yellowstone National Park Protection Act, creating the first national park in the United States and effectively the first of its kind in the world. The law withdrew more than 2 million acres from the private settlement and commercial development, reserving them as a public trust. It was not an obvious financial decision. In the short run, the government gave up potential mining revenue, timber sales, and development fees. And in the long run, it created something much harder to model on a ledger, a living asset that would grow more valuable with each passing decade, both economically through tourism and associated industries, and culturally as a shared American inheritance. Yellowstone's story is, at its core, a lesson in restraint. Faced with an opportunity to cash in quickly on a unique resource, the country chose to think in generations instead of quarter by quarter. It accepted near-term costs and political fights in exchange for preserving an ecosystem and a landscape that could not be recreated once it was gone. As investors and stewards of our own capital, we face quieter versions of that choice every single day. Here then are 4 lessons for the modern investor from the creation of Yellowstone. First, think like a steward, not merely an owner. Owning a piece of land in the 1870s meant you could, within reason, do pretty much what you liked with it. Graze it, mine it, cut it, subdivide it. The decision to create a national park introduced a different mindset: stewardship. In your financial life, it's easy to think purely as an owner. How and what can I get out of this asset today? Stewards ask a different question. How do I manage this so it will serve me, my family, and perhaps the causes I care about over decades? Now, that shift often leads away from short-term speculation and toward diversified portfolios, sustainable withdrawal rates, and thoughtful estate and charitable planning. Second, accept short-term trade-offs for long-term value. Setting aside Yellowstone meant relinquishing immediate commercial gain. Similarly, choosing to save more now, pay down debt, or invest in a disciplined way can feel like giving something up. Less consumption, fewer impulse purchases, more patience, less fear of missing out. But just as the value of a preserved Yellowstone compounded over 150 years, the value of compound returns, lowering leverage, and time in the market tends to reward those who accept near-term trade-offs for longer-term strength. Third, diversify your landscape. Yellowstone was never meant to replace farms or cities. It was meant to complement them. A healthy national portfolio, so to speak, included places of production and places of preservation. Investors sometimes fall into the trap of believing they must choose one thing, only growth stocks, only real estate, only cash. A resilient financial landscape usually mixes different terrains: equities, bonds, real estate, cash, sometimes even charitable or legacy vehicles. No single asset class has to do every single job, just as no single park can carry a whole country's identity. Finally, protect what can't be easily rebuilt. Once a geyser field is drilled or a canyon is dammed, the original landscape is hard, if not impossible, to restore. In your own balance sheet, there are assets that are similarly fragile. Your ability to earn an income, your health, your reputation, and the capital you've already accumulated. Protecting those with appropriate insurance, legal planning, and sensible risk management is the financial equivalent of a national park designation. You don't wall everything off, but you are deliberate about which things you will not casually put at risk just for a bit more yield or excitement. One final thought this week. When Congress debated Yellowstone, no one could fully predict how Americans in 2026 would value a day spent watching Old Faithful erupt or a herd of bison crossing a river at dusk. They simply knew that once the decision was made to carve it up, there would be no going back. The discipline to preserve, to think beyond the next season, and to manage your resource as a long-term trust rather than a short-term opportunity is what separates a fragile plan from a durable one. In that sense, every thoughtful investment policy, every spending rule, and every legacy decision you make is its own small Yellowstone. A choice to keep something intact so that it can keep giving long after the first temptation to cash it in has passed.